Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Future Salespeople's weekly sales round robin. I'm Andrew Wojslovic, and I'm joined by Alex Guest. This week, we're here to talk to you about a heck of a topic, and that's omni-channel sales development. And the main reason why we want to talk about this is because, quite frankly, omni-channel sales development produces results. Being single-threaded, going after one channel or even two, simply is not as effective as going after multiple. In fact, it's, almost 4 times more successful going after it using multiple channels instead of one, Alex, in an omni-channel sales development approach?
Yep, and that's what we see. I think when it comes to the problems that we see with sales development is that people don't do it for long enough and they don't go through enough channels. And we'll dig into that in more detail later, but we'll tackle one of those today. And we even have a couple of planned episodes coming up on the topic as well.
No, I sincerely dig it. I'm going to move our faces. I know people aren't looking at our faces, but you brought in two things. It's the channels and the length of the cadence. And I appreciate you making that distinction that this could be multiple episodes that base off that alone. And even this slide brings up multiple potential episodes around an omni-channel outreach. And really, I would say that the biggest thing that people, or a couple things that people make a mistake in their omni-channel outreach is, one, is they're not really focused on what they're trying to accomplish within that outreach. So you can see up here as a whole that there are a variety of aspects or messages that you could and should reach out to with your customer. But at the end of the day, you only have two channels that most people are using, being phone and email. And they have too many goals or too many needs to reach out to. So what we see for most people is that they're simply not hitting the mark anyway. They're not providing value. They're trying to do too much with too few of channels, and they're simply missing the value for their customer at the end of the day with their outreach attempts. Guess, I know I'm missing something here. What am I missing so far, my friend?
I think it's the alignment to building value or satisfying a buyer need with just one or two channels or too simple of channels. Ease of use, for example, that can be very difficult to convey via email and almost impossible over the phone. And then you're not really describing the time to value with your buyer or your prospect, which can miss the mark. That's a lot easier to do through video. It's a lot easier to do through some more, I would say, maybe intimate channels. But other than that, I think you nailed it. It's that it's too simple. You're not focusing on value, and they're not leveraging the channels for their best application.
No, and I think that's a great transition, right? And one that you certainly are well aware of. Why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about emotional reactions to various channels?
Yeah, the emotional reaction to direct mail. Everybody loves to get something in the mail, particularly now in the COVID times. Sure. Oh, 3-year-olds. We're all 3-year-olds on the inside. But to that point, not all channels are created equal. When we think of just channels, let alone what you can do through each one of those channels, we think about direct mail, email, phone, social, and community platforms. So most commonly, social platform for B2B selling being LinkedIn, and then community being Slack, but this could also include industry forums, it could include subreddits, things like that. And as you can see, there are different ways to use each one of these, and right, also concerns or things you might want to avoid. So direct mail, you can get an emotional reaction unlike anything else within these different channels, but it's also expensive. So you want to meter that. With email, it's the most ubiquitous, but it's also very crowded. With phone, and this being a particular one that's top of mind with our clients, and we've gotten a lot of questions about this, it is very present, and it's even more so present in the time of the pandemic and people working from home, but that also means that it has high risk involved with that high reward of being a big interruption. When it comes to social, it can be a more personal approach and attempt, but it's also dependent more so on your buyer personas, because salespeople are going to be in LinkedIn multiple times a day. An executive in an engineering department might be on LinkedIn once a year. So you want to play off of that as well. And then when it comes to communities, another kind of high risk, high reward area here, there's a ton of scale in these communities, but because of the connectivity, if you piss somebody off, you're likely to burn the entire community. So you need to be very careful in the approach there. Any thoughts, Andrew? Anything I missed?
No, the one thing that just keeps coming up, you mentioned burning bridges as an example, and almost this like flash bang, this type of presence. I would just say that each of these channels, you have a amount of saturation you can hit before you've done too much. You've done so much good is now harm, right? You can only send somebody so many direct mail pieces before they get pissed off. Same thing with email, phone number, LinkedIn, and communities. All I would just say there is that each of these channels there represents a unique breaking point for your buyer and buyer personas across each of these channels as well. But don't want to get too specific around that.
No, very good point. There's a balance to it, in addition to the different applications of channels for different buyer personas. And when you and I talk about buyer personas, the two chief components of that are the seniority of that person. So whether they're an individual contributor, they're a leader, so being manager, director, VP, or they're an executive, so a C-level title. And then the other piece to that being the function. And this is oversimplified here, so we don't have a giant table on your screen that you have to squint to read, but the functions that we've grouped here are revenue, so sales, marketing, success, internal teams, operations, finance, and HR, and then finally technical teams, engineering, product design. So going through this, and again, just from a high level, if you do sell to contributors, which is somewhat rare, you might not want to spend a whole lot on the direct mail campaigns. So that would remove that as a real channel that you'd want to go after. Email being ubiquitous across both sets of tables here. Phone, they're probably too busy to pick up and answer the phone, but social could be a great way to interact with them. Community-wise, early careers, individual contributors, you might not see them looking to a community to self-educate yet, so that might not be the best option. On the flip side, as we start to look into some of those functions with revenue, direct mail, email, phone, and social, all great ways to get in touch with people that sit on those teams. When it comes to technical, and this is where we see a lot of our clients and prospective clients get a little confused is, well, why wouldn't you want to reach out to a technical person over the phone? It's because it's too much of an interruption. If you think about the common or the modern workplace today, outside of pandemic, most engineers don't have phones at their desks. Most product and product design people don't have phones at their desk. So if you try to go after phones, you're likely not going to hit that person. If you go after phones now, when they might have some sort of phone or call forwarding to their cell phone and you interrupt them, you're, to Andrew's point, likely going to do more harm than good. So you need to be very careful how you apply these to different buyer personas based off of their seniority, their function. And the best way is to kind of think through that. What's the modern office look like? What does it look like today now that we're all working from home?
I really like that. Just the one thing that just stood out to me, I would just say is when it comes to business development or sales development resources, individual contributors, we have it up here. I always find that like phone work, etc., is more impactful later in your sales journey with them when their information, when their buy-in is actually really relevant, not necessarily early on into the sales journey. But you mentioned earlier that we pretty much we do this. This is what we've done. We've seen some of our best responses in omni-channel sales development campaigns. This is something that's really separated us out when we've worked together at previous organizations and the work that we do for our customers. Alex, why don't you talk about this campaign that you have up here from Future Salespeople's Results?
Yeah, so you and I affectionately refer to this campaign as the alumni campaign. That makes sense because we do send people different items from their college alma mater. But that's really what kicks things off, is that direct mail piece. Based off of the consistency in shipping these days, we have the rest of this campaign metered out based off of when that person should receive it and open it. And based off of this omni-channel campaign, and again, this is purely outbound, purely cold outreach sales development, we see a 43% conversion for this campaign. And that's not conversion to people paying us, but that's conversion through this funnel. So a net new outbound prospect that we are then getting onto a qualification call. 43% outbound, it's kind of unheard of. There is a lot of effort that goes into this. There's a lot of investment, but it absolutely pays off because we're taking that omni-channel approach. We're being creative. We're providing value. We're aligning to those buyer needs. Interesting statistics that you can achieve just by being focused on this: 91% open rate on emails. And that's for an outbound campaign again. 68% of the people watch the video that we send them in the 4th outreach attempt. So you see that email with the little video attachment. That's amazing. 68% of the people are viewing that video. And just within the first 4 touches, we're getting a 74% response rate. So after 4 touches, 74% of people are then responding to us to learn more, to set up that qualification call, what have you. So happy to share more. If you have any questions about this campaign, how we do it, feel free to reach out to us. We always have the emails at the end of these videos, or you can go to our website, fsalespeople.com.
No, I love it. And just the last thing that I think you really hinted on this about why we see such great results as feature salespeople on our own efforts or our customer efforts. We have a journey. It's well thought out. We're taking people through a journey. So that's just one thing, and that's a whole other video. You have a distinct thing you want to accomplish, and you're trying to add value here. I think those are really important things, and something that we're certainly going to keep going ahead and talking about throughout our new videos, our new blog posts, and what we're going to be talking about on our website. But really continue this theme about doing business development, doing sales development, inbound versus outbound. That's coming up next week, some of those nuances, what that looks like, and how are you actually adding value still, I think is going to be a huge recurring theme for us. What else, Alex?
I think that's it. Excited to tackle inbound versus outbound. Again, something we've been hearing a lot from our prospects and clients, being able to tease those 2 things apart to help people generate more revenue, figure out what's next. So thanks for your time, everybody. Always appreciate it.
Likewise, really appreciate the time. Comment, like, subscribe. We appreciate the views. We appreciate the feedback. Take care.